Well, I'm back here on Craven Lake. I'm gonna try to find my old trail that I put a GPS track down on back in 2012. But that was before the big snowstorm that brought a lot of wood down, but the damage is pretty light in this part of the park. So I'm going to try and retrace it and see if I can push my way through to Walking Stick Lake. That'll be the first goal. If I can make it to there in decent time, I'll try to go on across through Echo to Dunstan. I looked ahead a little bit. I can actually see my trail up through the trees, so I'll take my time and pick it out. Enjoy the adventure. Kind of an ugly start, but I can see that there's not near as much down or as much mess up into the woods further. That's one wet spot at the start of this portage train. It's really the only wet spot there is all the way to Dunstan. I'm going to walk the trail first, just with the GPS and the saw. Pick my way through and cut what I have to, but I can kind of see where I've been because I always knock the branches off the lower trunks of these trees to get through. I'm about halfway across that first portage from Craven. It's gone pretty well. There's a lot of small stuff dead, some bigger stuff across the trail, but I'm cutting just enough so I can get my gear and canoe through. It's a big advantage. I had the route laid out 3 or 4 years ago, so at least I don't have to worry about that. I just need to cut the fallen trees out of the way. This is going to be a lot of grueling toil to make my way to Walking Stick, so the important thing is to slow down and enjoy the ride. I love these forests anyway. I probably enjoy more time up here in the forest than I do the open water. I enjoy the forest and Woodland Caribou a lot. These lichen-covered rocks and the moss and the open territory, completely different than what I see at home. So when I'm out doing something like this, I need a rest stop. I brought all my gear up to this halfway point, slow down and take a rest. When I first bushwhacked into this lake in 2012, several lakes before this and after, I saw no sign of any human presence at all. Usually you'll see an old blaze on a tree when you found a pretty good spot for a portage, or maybe an old can or something, but in this case there was nothing until I got here. Then a few scattered rocks where there was a fireplace, I came across this billy can, probably an old lard can with a wire bale put on to hang over the fire, so hence the name Billy Can Lake. I had a hard day yesterday. It got even harder toward the end of the day when I decided if I pushed on another 600 meters, cleared one more portage, I could get into what I call Billy Can Lake. Beautiful spot here, and I decided to take a day dedicated just to Billy Can Lake. I am going to walk over and clear the next portage so it's okay for tomorrow morning, but otherwise this is just a good Sabbath day rest. Billy Can Lake has a population of Bonaparte's gulls. I've never seen them anyplace else in Woodland Caribou Park. But the last time I was here, they were also here, and there's young ones too, so they're nesting here. I've counted 6 or 7 at one time. I'm not sure how many there are. There's also some terns here, and if you weren't looking close, you might mistake these Bonaparte's gulls for terns also. They're a smaller black-headed gull. They have like a dove-like flight, so they can really fool you from the distance. You think they're just terns. See how murky that water is? I don't know if it's showing up in this film or not, but it's thick with minnows moving around in these shallows. I can see 2 black spots on their back, just behind their head. Sometimes when they flip in the water, there's a silver flash. This is my kitchen setup at the Billy Can Camp. Found a nice big flat rock over there to get into position, so I have a little table to cook on. It's wet enough right now, it doesn't matter, but I like cooking on a rock when it gets dry. Now I do all my cooking with a stove, but I think that if Winter Trekker, also known as Hoop, comes by here, he has my permission to take that big flat rock and use that as his chimney rock when he makes his little fireplace to cook with. It looks like it'd be an ideal rock to me, maybe not. It's pretty quiet at the moment, but between the Bonaparte's gulls, the terns, and the loons, I get quite a serenade as I sit here at this campsite. And this beautiful scenery doesn't hurt either. These fissures in the rock could prove treacherous if you walk the wrong place in the dark. This is definitely a 5-star camp, maybe even a 5-star plus camp. Starts off with this excellent canoe landing to unload on a level rock with an easy walk coming up to the camp. There's just a gentle slope, keeps rising for about 30 meters as I get up toward my kitchen area and where my tent is. Once up on the level ground, there's a lot of open camp space. If you need a little shade or you want a shaded spot for your tent, plenty of nice soft pads back here in this mature jack pine forest. And all that's topped off by a view from a high elevation that can't be beat. The water in this lake looks almost murky. When I look at it closely, there's a very fine, like a green algae in the water. Visibility, you have a hard time seeing a rock less than 2 feet under the surface. I wonder if that has something to do with the attraction for all these birds, the food sources here. It's 6 o'clock in the morning and it's supposed to be really hot the next couple of days, so I've got up early and hit the water. Try to avoid some of the heat and some of these long portages I need to get over. So I'm saying goodbye to the Billy Can Camp. That's what it looks like. You get a nice place to sit up on top of that rock, and you can't see it in the picture, but I've hung the Billy Can up in a safe place that it'll be there the next time I or someone else stops by. As far as this Billy Can Lake, I out paddling yesterday. I did some depth checks and noticed that for the most part it's a very shallow lake, probably a few meters deep, got a mud bottom. The other thing I noted, there was no eagles or ospreys around, so even though there's all these bait fish, I really don't think there's probably any fish in this lake. No fish jumping. The other thing I noticed on the topographical map, there's no stream exiting this lake. And that's usually a bad sign for fishing. No way to replenish anything. But otherwise, it's still a very nice spot to stop by. When I'm out bushwhacking from lake to lake, Woodland Caribou Provincial Park, and I mentioned that I'm clearing a portage, I should probably clarify that a little bit. I've been through here before, and the sign that I've been here before is there's a rock cairn place there. But I don't place any blazes, and you shouldn't either. There's no ribbons. And as I go through this time, I'm just going to clear the storm damage off. Anything I can step over, all I'm worried about doing is cutting the dead trees out of the way and making a hole I can get my things through to the next lake. So when I say cleared portage, don't be thinking you're going to follow something very nice. It's not that easy trying to follow a track, even though I've walked this several times in the last day. So what I do is I put up these are my marten blazes. I pull up a plug of moss and I set it on a log, or I turn it over. And then as I walk along, I can always see that next mark ahead. Biodegradable, but yet somebody comes by next year, there'll still be some brown moss laying there to mark the trail. There's so much beautiful country on this route. This is a lake that I can't imagine when the last time a person was in here. I'm sure a trapper might have passed through, but I'm not seeing any sign of portage trails or any little rock rings on the open campsites or anything. It'll be a nice lake to camp on. As I approach my next portage, it'll take me to a pretty good sized meandering lake that actually the stream flows out to Moosecon Lake. But this could be a kilometer long portage, but I'm relieved I don't see any broken off trees or anything like that of the storm damage, so hopefully I'll be able to skate through this one too. Looks like some damage here on the slope heading uphill. But the trees are far enough apart that I should be able to wind my way around. I can see my cairns underneath some of this debris. Again, as I look up the hill, this will be cleaned up easier than you think. Big stuff I'll walk around, but I can see cairns pointing my way. It's still early in the morning, so the heat hasn't got up there yet. Try to get this one done by noon. I'm almost through with the portage in the South Moosecon. I thought I might make it by noon. I was in no hurry, but the heat slowed me down a little bit. I don't want to get overheated, but the trails took very little trimming. It covers a lot of rock area like this. Drops into a few swales where there's some black spruce we have to clip a trail through, but they were still open from the last time I was through. By the time I get to South Moosecon, I'll probably have paddled for almost 2 miles. And I put walking about 7 miles. Another thing that's really slowing me down is all these blueberries along the trail. The trail's not too bad, you see. It's fairly open through open country, but between the heat and these blueberries, I'm not making really good time right now. But I don't care either. Okay, when it gets really hot, there's only one thing to do. Climb in and just cool down for a while. I got through those 2 long portages after Billy Can this morning. Just after noon, a hard thunderstorm brewed up and cooled it off for an hour or so as I came through South Moosecon, and then after lunch I did one little short portage to this lake. I'm going to try to get one more in anyway before the day is over, but I was getting hot again. So it's time to wash all that salt off and get refreshed. Don't let the start of this quarter-mile portage fool you. Gets up on some open rock up there. There's hardly a tree around, and just like a walk over the dome to the other side. A few big ones here. I'll leave those for a bigger saw. I'm really glad I took the time to make that step last time. Kind of slippery on top with the rain we just had. You can see the blue of the lake water ahead. One big slide downhill here. And been enough portage today. I think I put about 10 miles on foot, all the back and forth. Not going to take too much of a campsite to make me happy tonight. I got to the end of the Portage Trail at the bottom of that hill, and it looked pretty shaded, pretty soft. I thought it'd be a good bed for tonight. I'll be hitting the sack early anyway, and I want to get an early start in the morning, so I'll be able to push off from here. Fixed up some rice and some spicy tuna, fried up some garlic bread. The end of a good day. Oh, it's a very nice morning. You can be on the water as the sun's coming up. I'm not saying I do it all the time, but it sure is nice when I do. As I head east, I know that the storm damage is going to pick up, and I'm expecting to get into more stuff like this. But fortunately for now, those big trees are down, but the cairn marking my portage goes up these rocks over here, and it looks like it's still open. My, this route was easy. It's only 250 meters, comes up some rock, drops down into this little low area with some open hardwood trees. But the real challenge the first time was there was this cliff. Now that wall drops off really sharp, so Portage Trail's got a real kink in it, big dog leg, but works out really nice. But it sure is easier the second time around, not having to find it. I can't see any sign that anyone has been up here onto this campsite since we were here in 2012. It's such a great lake that I just can't believe nobody made the trek up that walking stick creek from Carroll to check it out. They're really missing something. The one reason I'm interested in developing that trails, making those good way from Craven over here to Walking Stick, is that it would make a very nice circuit route for someone who was traveling over in the western part of the park. And did I mention all the walleye that are here in Walking Stick? That's a nice draw. So as this route that I'm working on now, and in a few years, if the park has time, maybe they can come in and get it opened up for everyone to come in and enjoy. But in the meantime, I guess I'll just have to keep it to myself. Well, did I mention there was walleye on South Moosakon too?